Good afternoon. Welcome to Tim One Ministries Real Talk, Real Truth. My name is Glenn Parrish. I just want to say thank you for watching our videos and following our podcast. The purpose of this is basically to show how the Holy Spirit is still moving today in everyday Christians' lives, and they can move in your life also. If you have any questions, feel free to message us. Feel free to leave comments on the videos, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you and have a blessed day. Good morning. This is Glenn Parrish here with 10-1 Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth. Today we are here with Foster Coker. Foster is a man that I met back when I was in high school. I remember him as a beast linebacker at Victory Christian Academy. Long time ago, Foster. How you doing, sir?
Very long time ago.
Very long time
very well.
ago.
Good to see you again.
And God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Since Victory Christian Academy, why don't you tell everybody pretty much, where you're at and where you've been and so forth, and then we'll go into the experience of why we're actually here to talk about today. Give us a little bit background on your past, in other words.
Sure. Well, before Victory Christian Academy, my parents separated when I was very young, so I went to live with my grandparents before the age of 1. And I was blessed enough to have a wonderful set of grandparents that raised me in a Christian home. So we were members of Springfield Baptist Church from day one. They had been members, before I was born. I was raised in that church, still go to it. They sent me to private schools, Lake Forest Baptist Christian School on Edgewood for first through sixth grade, and then that's as high as they went. And then I went to Victory Christian Academy, as you said, from 7th through 12th grade. Did some college, didn't actually finish, kind of wanted to get a job and start making some money. Got into the insurance business in 1986, investigating insurance applicants, mortgage applicants, and that sort of thing. And basically, I've been in that same line of work ever since. I was single for a good part of my life, but eventually the Lord did send me the right woman. In 1993, we met. We didn't have a lightning courtship by any means. We dated on and off for 7 years before we both realized that nothing better was going to come along, that we had found the best. We were going to stick with the Lord's plan.
And that's your wife, Pam, right?
And that's my wife, Pam.
Awesome.
I'm married to her to this day. We just had our 20th anniversary.
Amazing. Congratulations. That's
Thank
a long
you.
time. Yeah, that's, I always say me being divorced, I married a Victory Christian girl. I don't know if you know that. My first wife was Glenn Powell.
Did I know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're great friends today, but
Good.
back when it happened, it
Sure.
wasn't a good thing. But anyway, it's amazing when someone who's been on multiple marriages stays with someone 20 years. Congratulations. That's a feat within itself. So after you you worked in the insurance company up until you got married. When you got married, pretty much up until today, how many kids?
Well, we haven't had any together. She had 2 kids.
Okay.
When we got married, we were older when we got married, so we didn't have any kids of our own. She has 2, and then each one of them has 1 son, so we have 2 grandsons.
2 grandkids. Okay, awesome. And basically, does she work, or what does she do?
Yeah, she works for the Mayo Clinic.
Okay, so
She's
a nurse,
secretary for the emergency room department.
Awesome. And the reason we're here is Foster went through a situation that I wish no one would ever have to go through, but he came out of it amazingly. Before we get into that, you mentioned Springfield Baptist Church, which I know where that's at all the way. When did you give your life to the Lord, and is there anything traumatic experience that caused that to happen, in your opinion? Or was it just something that was, like you said, your grandparents brought you up in it, God touched you, made a decision? And what was your relationship with Christ before this experience we're about to talk about happened?
Well, my father, I call him my father, my grandfather that raised me, Foster Coker Sr. He was a deacon at the church. Okay. My parents were both very active in the church. We were there every time the doors opened my entire childhood. So it wasn't like I was fighting it or anything. I knew I was going to be a member of that church and grow up to be a Christian. We had a children's church program at the time. I was about 7 or 8 years old. We had a wonderful older gentleman named Mr. Locke who could explain things to kids in a way that we could really understand it. That's powerful, yeah. He really made us understand what the phrase "giving your life to the Lord" meant. Leading a certain life, doing certain things, not doing certain things. So we had at the end of our children's church service one day back then, again I forget if it was 71, 72, we had an altar call, and I went up there and prayed with Mr. Locke, and he led me to the Lord, right there in children's church on the 3rd floor, right there at Springfield Baptist Church.
And been a Christian ever since?
Ever since.
And did you always feel like you lived it? And I hate to use that term, but
I am embarrassed to say no. Once I got out of high school and got into college and kind of got out into the world kind of got into me.
That happens.
And
It's happened to me.
I drifted away from the church for, I'm embarrassed again to say, many years. But my very best friend in the world is the chairman of the deacon at Springfield Baptist Church now. And he was always encouraging me, never cajoling me or haranguing me, but always encouraging me. He said, "Hey, you should come to church this week. You should come to church this week. We're doing something at church this week. Why don't you come?" And finally, with Pam's encouragement, I listened to my friend, and we started going back to church. Probably 3 or 4 or 5 years after we got married. So I had been away from the church. Not that I didn't still go from time to time,
right?
But I had not been a regular church attendee for many years, probably a good 20 years.
Gotcha.
But now, having remembered the impact that children's church program had on me, now I'm part of it, and I have
That's
kids.
amazing.
I have kids that I look after and try to do what Mr. Locke did for me for those kids now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but I'm an athletic director at a Christian school right now, and it's crazy how kids can impact your life. I mean, even the kids that aren't yours can impact your life, and it's just amazing. Now, on the night of August 14th, 2014, your life, I would say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not putting words in your mouth, probably forever changed. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Would you mind going into detail about what happened on that night? And it's yours, and I will stop you when we get to our first break.
I'll absolutely tell you. That night, Thursday night, August 14th, 2014, was school was out for the summer. So one of our grandsons, our 7-year-old grandson, the older of the two, had slept over. And the next morning, at about 6 a.m., Pam was up and getting ready for work. She works out at the Mayo Clinic, so that's a bit of a drive. And she was going to take Mason, our grandson, home that day because I worked from home and couldn't look after him. He was 7 at the time and still, needed some maintenance. But since I work from home, Pam was getting dressed in the dining room so as not to wake me up, turn the light on, make noise and stuff. Mason was still in his bed. She was just about to get him up. That's how she knows exactly what time it was. At 6:20, she heard a thump at our back door. Now, as you noticed coming in today, we have a lot of animals around, cats, dogs, and you don't see them today, but the raccoons and possums are out there too. They come by to steal the cat food on the regular. So she didn't think anything of it. She thought an animal's out there and bumped into the door having some food. But then there was a second bump, and that was a much louder, more forceful bump, and the back door flew open, and a masked gunman ran into the house. She immediately screamed and ran towards the back of the house. I'm in a dead sleep. I hear the scream. It doesn't register on me exactly what's happening. I think maybe there's a bug or the dogs are fighting or something. I just jump out of bed and run towards the sound of the scream. Then I realize what she's screaming is, "Get your gun." But it was too late. I had already run out of the bedroom by then. And when I reached the hallway, I saw her lying on the living room floor with a man standing over her that didn't belong in the house, needless to say.
Now, you're a gun advocate, just so that people know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'm a gun advocate. So, so get your gun was a common thing when something happens in your house, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Okay. You said he was standing over her. Did he hit her? Was she injured or anything at that point in time? Or
we piece it all together later because as it's happening, you can't understand what's happening. But he shoved her or struck her across the back to stop her from running and knocked her down on the hardwood floor. And she suffered extensive injuries from that. A broken big toe on her left foot, a dislocated kneecap and torn meniscus on her left leg, and a torn right hamstring. So effectively crippled her right there on the spot.
Wow. And once she yelled, "Get your gun," you was already down, you'd said. So when you came into there and seen him, what was your reaction? I mean, obviously you had a crazy reaction, but I couldn't imagine personally seeing someone standing over my wife that's not supposed to be there. What was your impulse? What did you do from that point on?
My first instinct was to get him away from her so that he couldn't hit her, hurt her, or do anything else to her. So I ran and leapt over her and grappled with him to push him back. I was bigger than him. He was about my height, but much thinner, which most people are. But I pushed him away from her, and then as I did that, he started hitting me. He wound up and came out on top of my head really hard, and I said, "That is not a punch," because it really stunned me. I've been hit by a punch before many times, and it didn't hurt like that. I out of the corner of my eye, I saw that as he was bringing it down to hit me again, there was a long black object sticking out of the back of the bottom of his hand. I thought, well, he's hitting me with a pipe or a stick or something. That's not fair. So I just tried to do my best to protect myself, but he was young and fast, and he kept hitting me, and eventually the blows had busted my head open to the point where I was just pouring blood down my face, the way water pours in your face when you stand under a shower. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see hardly anything, and I told my wife, I said, honey, I told my wife, you're going to have to get a gun, honey. Go get me a gun. And
I'm sure it wasn't that calm, though, right?
No. I said, get me a gun. And she somehow got up on all those injuries,
right,
and went into the other room. So he and I are still out here fighting, and he's beating the crap out of me. I'll be honest about that. I said, if he hits me one more time, I'm going down. So I've got to get him away from me. So I summoned up what strength I had. I lifted him into the air and threw him away from me. And he bounced off the front door, which was still closed. He had kicked in the back door. He bounced off the front door, and when he did, his feet hit the welcome mat, and it slipped out from under him, and he landed on his butt. The welcome mat shot across the room. And when he landed on his butt, I had a breather for a minute, and I turned to look, and my wife was right there putting my pistol in my hand. So Then I looked at him, and as I was drawing a bead on him, I saw that the object he had been beating me with the entire time was an semi-automatic handgun with extended magazine. Wow. So he'd been pistol whipping me the whole time. I didn't realize it. I started shooting at him. He started shooting at me.
Wow, right here.
Right there, right over there.
Now, he shot one time from what I read, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And you shot, what,
five times?
5 times, okay. Did you hit him at that time? Or
I did. I hit him in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Fatal shot. The coroner later said that was you bleed to death in 3 to 5 minutes with that wound if you don't get immediate care.
Okay.
But 3 to 5 minutes is a long time
exactly.
in a gunfight.
Exactly.
And I wasn't sure where I hit him. I knew I'd hit him a couple times because he started screaming when I hit him. But I had a 5-shot 38. That thing was empty like that. I mean, it was boom, 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 boom. It's empty.
Right.
So, and I saw that he had, as far as I could tell, about 30 rounds.
Now, I want to go back to something you mentioned a while ago. You said you felt like you were losing consciousness. And I've read your story, obviously. And I think I read somewhere, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, that at that time your thought process was, if I lose consciousness, I can't protect my family.
Yeah.
Will you talk on that?
Exactly. If he hits me and puts me down, there's nobody between him and my wife and my grandson.
Right. And that motive, I mean, was it like a will? I mean, did you feel anything like...
Well, I mean, I think that's what gave me the strength to lift him up and get him away from me.
Right. Okay. And how long did this whole process take? I mean, I think I read somewhere the whole thing was over in 5 to 7 minutes or something like that.
From the time that the door kicked in, which she just looked at her watch and saw that it was 6:20, to the time she got on the phone with 911 was 9 minutes.
9 minutes. It's a long 9 minutes. I bet that.
But after the gunfire started, the fight was far from over.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Because my gun was empty, his wasn't. I said to her, "Go get me another gun." I threw my pistol down and threw myself on top of him to try and hold him down so he couldn't keep firing. His one shot, unknown to me at the time, hit me in the head.
I've seen the pictures. Yeah.
Went off the side of my head, through the wall behind me, into our grandson's bedroom where he was laying in bed trying to figure out what all that noise was. The bullet shattered his nightstand lamp into a million pieces, his favorite childhood lamp from when he was a baby, and then it ricocheted from the lamp and went up and came to rest in the molding at the top of the wall.
How far away from your grandson was the shot? Was the lamp? Did it actually hit?
2 feet, 3 feet.
2 feet.
I mean,
wow.
It was right beside his bed.
Wow, talk about being grateful. I mean, obviously God was protecting your family at that
point.
Well,
I'm going to circle back and tell you how everything that happened that I wasn't seeing at the time.
Okay, let's take a break. Okay. We're up on a break then, and we will come back with that. Again, this is Glenn Parrish with Tim One Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth, with Foster Coker. Thank you, and we'll be right back. Hi, thank you for watching part 1 of our interview with Foster Coker. We'll be right back to part 2. In the meantime, if you have a few moments, feel free to check out gatekeepersofdestiny.org. It's an organization that we are out in front of that basically raises tuition money to send kids to Christian schools who otherwise would not be able to go. If you're in a position to donate and you're passionate about the cause, please consider doing so. Now back to part 2 with Foster Coker. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to Tim One Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth. We're part 2 of episode 2 with Foster Coker. When we had left, Foster was talking about basically firing the shot and the fatal shot that killed the intruder. Foster, you want to go into that a little bit more? Whatever you want to tell us, please tell us.
Well, I fired 5 shots. One missed wide right, 2 missed wide left, but 2 hit him. One went through his arm, through and through, and 1 hit him in the heart, dead center. But it takes the heart a long time to stop pumping in a gunfight. It's not like TV where 1 shot kills people.
Right.
Very rarely is it like that. So I saw that he was still ready to go, and he had a gun. I couldn't tell the type, but I could tell he had an extended magazine, so I knew he had plenty more rounds left, and I didn't. So I threw myself on top of him to hold him down so that my wife could go get another gun, try to put an end to this. He and I are rolling around on the floor, struggling. I'm beating his head on the floor. I'm trying to not let go of his gun hand. He's biting me. I get him, at one point I get him in a headlock where he's biting me up under the arm and on the side of my body. I get him down on the floor. I'm hitting his head on the floor. My finger ends up in his mouth. He crushes it, just crushes it. The x-ray looked like a yellow pencil you bit into.
By biting. You said, yeah. I'd read that, like someone chewed on a pencil.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just one bite, he was literally...
Well, he had it in his back teeth and just ground it down.
Wow.
And I didn't realize it at the time, with all the adrenaline and the distraction.
Exactly.
I didn't even know I was hurt. Finally, I see that my wife is coming back with the second gun. I don't want to let him go because, as far as I can tell, he's got 30 more rounds. I tell her, you're going to have to shoot him. I pick him up so that if she has a good broadside target, I pick him up and say, shoot him, honey. He's still fighting, trying to get loose, trying to kill us. She says, I'm afraid I'll hit you. So I say, you've got to shoot him. And I push him as far away as I can without letting go. And she lets loose. Pow, pow, pow. Close range. She shot him. We're not sure whose shots did what, but she shot him 2 or 3 more times. I felt his body lurching with the impact. In the end, we found out that one of those shots did indeed go through his neck and sever his spine. And that's when all the fight went out of him. He went limp. I dropped him on the floor. But even at that point, his body was still moving. He still had his gun in his hand. And I wasn't taking any chances with my safety of my grandson and my wife. I took the pistol from her and shot him 1 more time.
Okay.
And at that point, the fight was over. I collapsed on the floor. She ran, got me a towel to hold over my head. She got on the phone with 911. The house phone wasn't working. One of my shots, I think, it hit the TV, which it's all tied in with the cable and everything. So the phone went out. She finally got her cell phone working. She had trouble with that because it had fallen on the floor. But finally, she got 911, and they came, and the rest, took away. The crime scene, the house for 7 hours. Took us both to the hospital.
Your grandson, at this point in time, when did he realize what was going on? What I can only imagine the reaction, but how did he handle the situation of what he was seeing?
Well, he bore it up very bravely, as far as I could tell. At one point, I did see him stick his head out of his room, curious about what happened after the fight was over. And I told him, I said, I know this looks bad, because I was pouring blood. I said, this looks bad, but I'm okay. I said, but don't come out. And he stayed in his room, did what I told him. When the police came, we had a very, very kind officer come and find out that he was in there. He took a blanket and put it around him so he couldn't see what was in the living room, and took him out and into the front yard into safety.
Great job by the police. No doubt. Okay. Now the police are there at this point in time. They're obviously doing their investigation. You go immediately to the hospital, or did you talk to the police first?
No, immediately to the hospital because I was pouring blood. They didn't know how badly I was hurt.
Right. Okay. When did the police tell you the situation about his gun and what was going on and so forth?
I don't remember exactly when that was. I think it was days later I found out about his gun. Okay,
and you want to tell him why he only fired 1 shot?
Well, he had a .40 caliber Beretta Centurion. He had an extended magazine in it, 32 round magazine, but every round in the magazine was a 9mm, not a .40 caliber. So he got off the 1 caliber round that was in the pipe, and then it failed to feed, and he got no more shots off.
Wow. And I don't want to talk about the young man we told you, but I don't know if that's just ignorance, that he didn't know what to load in the gun, but either way, you look at it as I look at it as divine intervention. Think about it. If he had the right ammunition, we wouldn't be having this conversation right
Absolutely
now.
Absolutely not.
And
divine intervention. There was a lot of divine intervention going on that day.
Let's talk about it.
All right, let's go back to the night before.
Okay.
My grandson spent the night. my wife was putting him to bed, and she's, time for your bedtime prayer. He's 7 years old at the time. His bedtime prayer has been the same every night for years. Mm-hmm. God bless Coco and Grandma. God bless our dogs, Pee-wee. God bless the cats. God bless Mama and Daddy.
Typical 7-year-old prayer.
Right. Mm-hmm. But that night, he said something in his prayer he had never said before, and he said it out of the blue. She thought nothing of it at the time, except other than that it was cute and sweet. Mm-hmm. But what he said was, "Dear God, please put angels around me and my grandma and my Coco to keep us safe."
Wow. You never said it before?
Nope. Still to this day, don't know why he said it, other than the obvious, that the Spirit moved him and the need was there.
Wow. Okay.
So the next day, there was a lot going on to show that was an answered prayer.
Without a doubt, yeah.
When that bullet came at my head, I didn't even know I got shot. It was. I mean, I like to tell people, I got shot the least you can get shot and still say you got shot, because the bullet just cut a hole down the side of my head and kept going.
I've seen the picture, and look it up if you would like to. It's I know I seen it on Facebook one time, in a story about your situation, but it literally looked like half of the bullet. It like you had like a canal, for lack of a better term. Yeah, it was like a canal. It was an amazing, that it didn't hurt you more than what it did.
And as far as I like to say there were angels in the room that day, and one of them moved me out of the path of that bullet just as sure as I'm sitting here with you right now.
I believe that.
And how did my wife, on her crippling injuries, she still can't walk right to this day, how did she run the length of the house twice to return with those guns when we needed her to, if an angel wasn't carrying her?
I agree.
And another thing, this guy wasn't flying solo. He had a guy at the back door waiting to come in the second that the guy who came in, secured the occupants. When the fight started, the guy at the back door had an option. Come in and help his friend, push that angel out of the doorway, or run away.
Right.
And you can't push an angel out of the doorway.
Exactly right. I mean, because I thought about it also, when I looked at the story, I'm looking at what I call the spiritual side, what's going on, and I don't know, but what I believe is going on the spiritual side of things, and I didn't understand why he didn't come in. And what you said makes sense. Maybe he tried and couldn't come in, and that's what I believe. I believe there was some force stopping him from coming in. And there was also someone in a getaway car.
That's right. There was a third person involved, a getaway driver, a neighbor, actually.
Wow.
She had gone. She was supposed to circle the block and come pick them up when they had finished the robbery, but once the shots started, you could hear the shots all over the neighborhood, I'm told. She just went home. Right. Called it a day.
How did the guy at the back door, did he go with her, or did he just make a run? Or what
he jumped the fence, and there's an apartment complex behind the house. He ran through the apartment complex and went down and came into her backyard. Okay. Told her, if you talk to the police, we'll kill you. Wow. That's the kind of honor they have.
And that's someone you knew from the neighborhood, or did you know her?
Just to see her passing. Didn't know her personally.
Tell why they picked your house, because I thought that was amazing. Why they picked your house?
2 nights a week at the time, all my friends would come over for game night. We're game nerds from way back. We play superhero games, fantasy monster games, any kind of role-playing game. We'll play it. Spies, Star Trek.
This guy here would love you. The guy behind the camera would love you.
Star Trek, all that stuff. I mean, that's my book, my game shelf right there. We play all that stuff. So 2 nights a week, our house is packed with cars. And these guys that had been visiting this young woman, they had actually turned her out as a prostitute. These guys when they would come pick her up for her dates, as they were called in court, they would see our house full of cars. And if I drove by your house and saw a bunch of people over, I'd say, "Oh, he's got friends over for dinner. He's got a prayer meeting. He's got movie night." Right. But not them people. When they see a bunch of cars in front of somebody's house, they think differently than we do. They have a criminal brain, so they say, "Oh, they've got drugs. They have gambling at their house. They have something that we can steal and either make money on or sell, or they have money." Later on, the story came out after countless hours of interrogation by the police. They told the police they were going to get $90,000 during that robbery. Now, if they picked up the house, ran down the road, and found somebody to sell it to, they wouldn't have got $90,000.
But it's funny you say that, because I've also wondered this also. You mentioned they think different than we think, and when you said that, first thing popped in my head is saved and unsaved. I mean,
I'm a black and white person. I'm not a gray person, and you either live for Christ or willingly or unwillingly you live for Satan. There isn't no in between, and I truly believe that. And it's amazing how, like you said, I'd come by your house knowing you, and you have Christian friends over, you're having Bible study, but yet people that are living in the world and looking to be, do criminal activity, you're right, they think totally different. I have people that I'm close to that have that mindset, and they see something that I see as perfectly normal, and they see it as evil. And it's all the way they think. It's amazing you said that. We were talking about that the other day, actually.
The attendees that night before were 2 ushers from church, the chairman of the deacons, me, the children's church co-director, and a couple of our longtime friends.
There was also a 4th person that got arrested?
Yeah, there was 4 people in the car when they planned they call it a lick. I found this out. I wasn't hip to the criminal lingo.
I've never heard that term.
When they planned the lick that morning, there were 4 people in the car. A 4th fellow chickened out, bailed out, decided he didn't want to take part in it. But that didn't stop him from making threats against us later, after the event was over and his friend had gotten killed during the robbery. So when the police went to ask him about those threats, he had a concealed weapon on him, and since he was already a convicted felon, they're all convicted felons, because that's the membership requirement for the gang they were in.
The
Cutthroat Committee.
Cutthroat Committee. Okay.
Yeah. He got arrested and charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and got sent on a 10-year vacation.
Okay. And that's been how many years ago? 2014. So he could
6
be out
years
any
ago.
time. Yeah. I mean, for good behavior or anything like that, a reduced sentence, he could be out any time.
The getaway driver is going to get out first. She gets out next year. She got 7 years for second-degree murder. In Florida, if someone dies during the commission of a felony, you can be charged with murder, whether
you pull the trigger or not.
Right.
Yeah.
It says her friend died committing a felony and she was in on it.
Right.
She also got convicted of second-degree murder. She only got 7 years because she had no prior record at all.
Right. Does her family still live in the neighborhood?
No, they moved away.
They moved away. Okay. Do you think about the ones that, when they get out, do you think about maybe repercussions? Do you think anything like that might happen, or has a thought ever crossed your mind? We know God protects you.
But I have to say that it has.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not especially concerned about it. The police say it's a very rare thing for someone. That's a TV thing too. Criminals get out of prison and seek revenge, and criminals don't want people like my wife that'll fight back with lethal force. They want soft targets.
You're right.
People that won't fight back. I don't know how they got it in their head that we were soft, just because we were older. They thought they would just walk in and have a gun and we would start throwing our wallets at them.
Right.
But no.
That's TV stuff too. Right.
That's the kind of people. That's the kind of people they're looking for. Right. That's not the kind of people they found.
That's right. Now, when we come back, we're about to take another break. When we come back, I want to ask you about a statement. I believe it was made by your daughter in a news story. Said, man, woman traumatized after killing intruder. I want to talk about after the situation, what happened from that point on. So we're going to take a break. We will be back in a moment with Foster Coker, 10-1 Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth. Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you for hanging in there for part 2 of our interview with Foster Coker. We'll be right back with part 3. In part 3, you're going to hear Foster talk about an organization called the Justice Coalition. Their website is thejusticecoalition.org. They're an amazing organization. They advocate for innocent victims over 8 counties in our area, which is Duval, St. John's, Clay, Baker, Nassau, Flagler, Bradford, and also Putnam. If you're in a position to help these guys out, go to the donate button and help these guys out. They're doing a great thing for the community. Thank you.
Welcome back to 10-1's Ministries, Real Talk, Real Truth. We are with Foster Coker. When we left, we talked about in length about the traumatic experience when he had a home invasion and how, he felt like there were some supernatural things protecting his family. And I read a story in a news article pertaining to the situation where it said that him and his wife was traumatized after this experience. Do you want to go into detail what your daughter meant when she said traumatized?
Well, I mean, I think it goes without saying that any average person that goes through an event like that would be traumatized, have some kind of deep mental injury over it. I mean, I never wanted to kill anybody in my life.
Exactly.
I never wanted to see my wife get crippled. I never wanted to lose the sense of security in my own home that I had since birth, basically.
Do you think about that now? I mean, and traumatized to me is a very vague word. It can mean different things to different people. Do you, like, if you hear a bump in the night now, do you think you jump quicker now? Maybe. Do you?
Yes. I believe professionally in the mental health field, it's called hypervigilance. Sometimes you hear that referenced in PTSD soldiers that have been.
My wife used to be a nurse. I have heard that term. Yes.
Yeah. Hypervigilance. Any little noise is a threat. We have upgraded our security and home defenses tremendously.
That was actually going to be my next question, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, upgraded the weapons, upgraded the security, upgraded just the doors, the entry points. Everything's taken up to the next level. We, if I go out at night to shut the gate, my wife says, "I'll cover you." If I say, "See her going out to check to get the mail," I say, "You got your pistol with you?" She says, "Yes." We carry armed 100% of the time.
You both have, I'm assuming, your license to concealed carry, that kind of thing?
We do.
All right. Now, when you do these things, and it's not out of fear, it's just out of taking care of things, right? I mean, making sure. A lot of people think, well, you wouldn't carry that gun if you wasn't scared. It has nothing to do with being scared. It has to do with being smart.
No,
okay?
I don't carry a gun because I'm scared.
Exactly,
I carry a gun so I'm not scared.
Exactly. I've heard that said like that before. And unfortunately, we live in a society where people will kill you just because, and it's sad, but it's true. The world needs Jesus. Do you feel like your walk with Christ has improved? I won't say improved, has grown.
Absolutely.
Since this situation, and talk about that a little bit.
Well, the event happened on a Friday morning. That Sunday, in spite of our injuries, in spite of everything, we're in church. We have a lot to be thankful for that day, and we're not going to go and thank the Lord in person.
Amen.
We, my wife was on crutches, or in a wheelchair actually.
Yeah, with all the injuries, I was like, wow, that's amazing. She's on crutches.
Yeah, well, she hadn't had the surgery yet on her toe. They had to do surgery a few days later to put a rod in her toe. But we were there at church that day, and all our friends were, of course, glad to see us. They were amazed that we were there. I said, well, look, if I can get through the door after something like that, I've got to come tell everybody what happened. I feel like it's the reason that happened to us, and the reason that we survived it is because the Lord wanted us to share this story. And if it saves one life, if one person takes an extra security measure, if one person gets shooting lessons, if one person gets their concealed carry permit, if one person changes the way they pray at night, any little thing that they can do to make their lives better, safer, more secure, then I feel like then what we went through would be worth it.
All right. You brought it up, so I'm going to expand on it. Change the way they pray at night. How did your prayers change after that day?
Well, I've had a lucky life. I've in relatively good health. Like I said, my grandparents raised me. They sacrificed a lot to send me to Christian schools for 12 years. So I've always had a lot to be thankful for.
Right.
But I mean, every day that event comes up in my prayers to the Lord when I thank Him for what happened, what He did on our behalf that day.
Yeah, that's awesome, because a lot of people, when they have, and yours was a very traumatic event, but I know a lot of people, we call it the drunk Christian. If you'll help me, I'll never do this again, and then next week they do the same thing again. And I know people that's been through experiences that for the first 6 months they're on fire for God, and they're doing the prayers you're doing. This has been 6 years now?
Yeah, almost
and
6 years.
Every day it still comes up in your prayers. Yeah. Okay, that's that's, to me, it's real then, you know what I mean? And I have some very probably different theological viewpoints. I'm not big on doctrine, I'm big on God. And we had this situation with my daughter, and we're going back to you, but I just want to kind of expand on what you're saying, where she's been to the altar 37 times, but her life doesn't reflect the fruit. And sometimes it's an emotional experience, is what I'm trying to say. And I think some people, when they get in a situation like you were in and your wife was in, that it becomes an emotional experience and it's not real. Where in this case, you praying every day about it, I said all that to say this: God was involved in that.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't convince me you didn't know God was involved in that.
I mean, if I tell somebody that and they don't believe me, well, that's on them. But I know what happened. I was there, and I wasn't alone.
Exactly. Now, since all this has happened, and your life is, it'll never be normal. what is normal anyway. But how has it changed as far as your walk with Christ? You're already a Christian, you're already in church, you're already doing things. Is there anything that you've noticed to where maybe a higher alertness when you see things, or not even criminal things, but I need to help that person because something like that? And don't let me put words in your mouth. I'm trying to
In the aftermath of the event, my wife and I were quickly put in touch with a local organization that Jacksonville is blessed to have, and that's the Justice Coalition. You may or not be familiar with it. It was founded some years ago by Ted Hires. It is a victims advocacy group. It advocates to help the innocent victims of crime financially, with government support, with prayer. I mean, the first day my wife and I went in that office, they shut everything down. Everybody in the building came and gathered around us and prayed with us. And
when you say everyone in the building, I know the answer to this, but tell how many people you're talking about.
Well, I think there was probably 6 or 8 people there. Probably six that day.
Right.
From the receptionist to the advocates themselves to the director, they all stopped what they were doing, came and prayed with us, and then they're on the phone to the government, to Tallahassee, to Jacksonville City Hall, making sure that as victims that we got what we had a right to. So many people. A modern complaint is that all the laws favor the criminals, but there are things out there that favor the victims.
Right.
And the Justice Coalition specializes in accessing those things and making sure that people get what they need. We got money for a new back door. I mean, we had to have a door. We couldn't live with our back door not being able to close. They made sure we got money for a back door. They made sure we got money for groceries because we were out of work. They went to every single court appearance for all 3 of the surviving gang members. They did so much for us. I'll never stop being grateful to them. And as a very, very small way of repaying them, I've taken the opportunity, after being invited to do so, to join the board of that organization. It's just an absolute blessing that Jacksonville has an organization like that, a Christian-based, faith-based organization. That's not to say that we only help Christian people,
right?
But we do the Christian
thing, no matter who it's with, right?
As long as it's an innocent victim of crime, we will do everything we can within our power, within our budget, unfortunately, to help them.
Do they have a website or something where people can go and donate to help?
Absolutely. If you just Google the Justice Coalition of Jacksonville, you would find their website and a very clearly marked way to donate to that organization. Thank you for asking that.
No, Michael Lyles, I played softball with before he passed.
I absolutely know Mr. Lyles.
And unfortunately he passed away, but he was a victim of crime and became, I believe, chairman of the board,
director.
president, director.
Okay.
Mike was a great guy. Me and him played softball together at North Main Street Baptist Church when I was an 19-year-old kid.
Oh, is that right?
And I actually reached out to him to tell him congratulations when he took on that role after the situation with his wife. And he Facebooked me back, and we had a quick chat, and but same guy. He was the same guy back in the day as he was then. But I definitely missed. I was hated to hear the situation that happened with Michael. But back to your situation. You said you're on the board. What does that consist of? Do you do you help other families now that went through the same thing you did?
We attend events. Fundraising is a big part of it. It is not something that can be done in a vacuum. It's expensive. We have to pay and train people to be these courtroom advocates. It's not something that a person can just walking off the street and know and understand. You know how the justice system is. It's very internecine and convoluted, so it takes special training and knowledge to be able to fulfill that role. And we are blessed to have the people that we do that do it, but you can't ask somebody to do that for nothing.
Right. So there's do you have enough help in that area, and where do they go to get training if they want to be part of it?
Well, just contact the Justice Coalition. Either look them up online, call them, write us, email us. We won't turn down any help. There's always something that can be done.
Right. Okay. And when you said they helped you, they fundraised to help families that went through what you did. Is there any grants out there or anything like that helps them? Or do you know of any? I mean, I'm trying to figure out where they get their money besides fundraising.
Well, there is a couple of government grants, but for the most part, it's fundraising and donations. We have events. We have coming up in September the Shoot for Justice event, where it's a day at the gun range.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun.
Right.
And it's for a wonderful cause. And I encourage anybody that can to support that. either as a participant or just as a donor.
Okay.
You can, if you want to put together a team and each person contributes a certain amount of money, go and compete. There's prizes. There's a raffle. There's all kinds of good things going on that day. I highly encourage anybody, shoot for justice in September.
Where's that going to be held at? Do you know yet?
I know we had to postpone it because of the COVID.
Because of the COVID,
so
right,
everything's
okay.
kind of up in the air.
Well, we have a mutual friend that's big into shooting. You remember Mark Few?
Oh, absolutely.
Mark's big into shooting, so maybe we can contact Mark and see. Mark, if you're watching, in fact, I will contact you and we'll see what you can do to help us out with that. But yeah, so you're on the Justice Coalition. You still work in insurance. Now, you mentioned Pam being disabled. Does she work now still, or is she able to work?
Yeah, she continued to work. She missed some work. We both missed a few months of work there in the direct aftermath of the event, but she didn't have to retire. She just has some mobility issues. And of course, now she's working from home like half the people are. So
gotcha.
That's good for her.
Me too. I seen something the other when I was reading through this story, and I missed it earlier, so I want to go back to one thing real quick, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It was at the beginning of your story, and I meant to mention it, and I didn't. I apologize. Bear with me.
Sure.
Right here. Pam screams, jolts Foster from a deep sleep. I know you mentioned that. If you can just, in detail, I know you weren't probably thinking, like you said, a spider, bug, whatever, that brief moment when you realized what was going on, you mentioned that your first thing was getting away from your wife. In any time during your whole story, and please, I'm not trying to condemn or convict, did you say a quick prayer, God help me? Because most people do, is why I'm asking.
No, I didn't.
No?
I really didn't.
You didn't? Okay, I appreciate your honesty, yeah.
I didn't have time for that to go through my head.
Okay.
It was all survival. From the first second I jumped across her, it was a fight not to die.
Appreciate your honesty. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about this that I haven't asked you?
Well, like you said earlier, it's not anything you would want to ever happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't guarantee that it won't. So be prepared.
Be prepared.
Defend your home. Secure your doors. Secure your windows. Get a gun and know how to use it, because the bad guys are bringing theirs.
Right.
And if you don't have one, then you're not here to tell this story.
I received that because I've been talking about it for 2 years and haven't done it. I'll be honest with you. So I definitely received that, and I will definitely initiate it a lot quicker than what I have been. Is there a go-to Bible verse you'd like to share with the listening audience?
Well, my favorite have always been, I believe it's Hebrews 13:1-2. Let brotherly love continue.
Yes.
Be ever mindful to entertain strangers, because thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Angels are real. Angels are out there, and you don't know when you're talking to one and when you're not.
You're right.
You do know when they're in your house helping you win a gunfight, but you don't always know when you're dealing with one in your day-to-day life.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. If we would all live by the one commandment that says do unto others, you'd have them do unto you, because you never know who you're doing unto. And that's what I tell my kids all the time. Foster, it's been just a great opportunity to talk with you again.
My pleasure.
Your story, your testimony is amazing. We know God was involved in this,
Absolutely.
or you wouldn't be here right now.
That's absolutely true.
And I appreciate you, and I appreciate the fact that you're sharing your story with everyone, and let them know that God is real to everyday people.
He absolutely is.
You have a blessed day, sir.
Thanks. Amen. You
God
too.
bless.